it's probably about right on 90 minutes, Pat, although I do feel that Chelsea had chance to make more hay in that first 45.
Yeah, look, we're going to be greedy about it because we know we actually almost, to some degree, could have wrapped this game up. We could have wrapped this tie up with the brilliant positions we've got ourselves into, but that's not going to happen quite the same in the second leg. But before the game, we all had a chat about it, and everyone was saying, look, if you get a draw, it's not a bad one. If it's going to be a draw, would you rather it was a 0-0 or a 1-1? You'd rather it was a 1-1. So lots of positives. And also, these players need to know that they're not up against superheroes that they're not as good as. That's not the case. We know we're good enough. And stop grinning like a Cheshire cat, because, like me, every time you see Eden Hazard, that's what we want to do, isn't it?
Well, he's having a laugh and a joke with some of his former colleagues as he comes off. The rain is pouring down. 1-1 in Madrid. Thomas Tuchel checking that Tony Rudiger is okay. I think he'll be pleased. I think he'll also think that there's an opportunity missed. That first half hour, Real were there for the taking. Chelsea didn't take them. It's all square with at least 90 to play at the Bridge next week. Real Madrid 1, Chelsea 1.
Mental. Right, see you in a minute.
Welcome back to Matchday Live. It's finished level in Madrid, an away goal to take back to London. Chelsea 1, Real Madrid 1. It's finally in the balance for next week's second leg. Pat, I think, well, I mean, I know that you'll deserve a little pat on the back because you predicted 1-1 ahead of the game. And it's quite strange, isn't it? Because prior to the game, I think everyone would have taken a 1-1. The way the game's panned out, I think there'll be maybe a slight edge to maybe think that we could have got more from the game.
Over the piece, yeah, because look, we will always remember the fact that 25 minutes into this game, we could have had this tie sewn up and we could be almost packing for Istanbul, right? But it didn't happen, so we've got to find out another way of doing it. By the end of the game, certainly the second half there, I think it was pretty much an even game. There wasn't that much in it. And, 1-1, I just absolutely take it. 10 minutes to go, and if you'd have said, blow up now, I'm with you. Take it. Get back to Stamford Bridge. We've got an away goal. They've got to come at us to some degree, and I'm really quite happy about it. Again, much more mature. I was saying in the commentary, the first half was bizarre, mad game of strange, weird defending, like Real Madrid playing this weird system where you're thinking, have you ever practiced that before? You've ever tried that before? Whereas the second half, they went back to a 4 at the back, and it was grown-up football again, which to some degree was fine. But I kind of wanted the excitement. Look, we're 1-1. We've got an away goal. We know they are not unbeatable gods. And that's as much as we needed at the end of this 90.
Absolutely right. And Zach, like Pat said, the first half was, I mean, it had everything in it. It had the storm, it had chances, it had players not really kind of seeming to grasp the fact that they were playing in literally a storm. Like they were soaked to the skin, sliding all over the place. In the second half, sort of parity resumed, and it was kind of a little bit more calm. And that almost favoured Real Madrid, didn't it? Because they were able to get players on the ball that like to slow pace down and tick things over. But I suppose what we learned in the first half, like Pat just said, is they can be got at, and we're more than capable of doing that. And the second leg, there's certainly more questions they'll be asking than we will for in preparation of that game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, before the game, I think if you'd asked any Chelsea fan if it was, would you take 1-1, they would have bitten your hand off. But then, yeah, I think just because of the chance that we had in that first half, I think that's why maybe people were feeling a bit more disappointed. But it was a positive result. Defensively, again, we were fantastic. They didn't really create a chance apart from a great finish from Benzema and hitting the post from outside the box. Apart from that, the Chelsea defended really, really well. Didn't give them a one-on-one opportunity compared to, as Pat said, when we were attacking, especially in that first half, we were having some great fun. I thought when Ziyech came on as well in the second half, we started to take it to them a bit more again. Tuchel's substitutions, I thought, came at the perfect time. It really got us back into the game. Reece James being able to have some energy on that right flank again. Aspie, bless him, he put an absolute shift in. You could tell he was knackered by the end of it. But yeah, no, I thought the boys did really, really well. And as you said, I think we would have learned... Real Madrid would have learned a lot more about us than we would have about them. It actually seemed to go... I think if you asked Tuchel, he'd say, yeah, it kind of went the way I was expecting it to go.
I think you're absolutely right, mate. And Pat, I think we should probably dedicate this part of the show to N'Golo Kante, who I think is probably doing a cool down of running laps of the field still, because I do not know how he has that much energy left in the bank after 85 minutes and he's still bursting away from players. There was one moment, and I heard yours and Ben's commentary on it, where he created a chance where he ran down the wing and he tried to put a ball in, it got deflected out, and then he was the person that was recovering the ball in the next phase of play. He is an absolute phenomenon.
Yeah, he's unnatural. I mean, I do question whether he's human or not some of the time, because he does so many things that are superhuman. And that breakaway you were talking about there, he dribbled around 3 players. It was Eden Hazard standard. That's what it was. So he's Eden Hazard standard. He's Makelele tackling. He's got the energy levels of Mo Farah. It's just weird, man. Like what he's got. It was a joy to watch tonight. And you do look at teams like Real Madrid, and they must have looked at the start of the season when N'Golo wasn't getting a game, and sometimes he doesn't get a game, and they must have been thinking, we'll give you anything for him. You ain't having him. We're not giving him away. You're not having him. He's just so important to us because, it's that classic one. We have an extra man in midfield because we've got 2 N'Golo Kantes most of the time. No, he was brilliant tonight. You were talking about who would be the best man in the match. I mean, you'd find it hard to go beyond him because he was, in some ways, our best defender, probably our best midfielder. Good argument, our best creative player as well. So it's not bad actually for the one player. He was a joy tonight, and wrap him up in cotton wool. We need him. There's a lot of big games coming up.
Completely agree. And Zach, we had this chat. Like Pat was saying, there was elements of this season where Kovacic, especially to start under Thomas Tuchel, Kovacic and Jorginho seemed to have that double six sewn up. They were just immovable. They were both brilliant. And then you look at the substitutes bench and coming back to full fitness is N'Golo Kante, and you think, wow, okay, we are blessed in that area. And that's I think that the biggest credit is, like we just said there, we're missing Mateo Kovacic, who you could argue over the last 18 months, 24 months, has been Chelsea's most consistent player. He's certainly up there in the conversation with Mason Mount in terms of the level of performance that you constantly get from Kovacic. Player of the season last year, of course. And his absence isn't felt because you can bring someone like N'Golo Kante in.
Kante is this phenomenon. I don't think we'll ever see a play like him again. I think every now and again, as we said, when Pat said, when he isn't getting a game, I think Chelsea fans forget how good he is. And then he comes back in the side and you're like, oh my God, this is how good he is. It's ridiculous. The past 3 seasons, he's been so good, if not longer. But I think there were times at this season where I think, even myself, I started thinking, maybe Kante is starting to get, his age getting to him a bit. Maybe he's losing his legs. And then he does a performance like that against Real Madrid, or a performance against Atletico Madrid, and continues to get better and better and better. We are so lucky to have him. And when you look at how you're going to replace him, you literally can't. There isn't another player like N'Golo Kante out there in the world. Maybe we'll have to try and make a robot version because it's just not possible.
You don't look for the same one again. I mean, remember, we had Makelele. Don't try and get another one. I mean, we have had other players in those sorts of positions. Don't get the same one. Just love the fact that we had them for that period of time. But anyway, we haven't mentioned, and we didn't mention at half-time, how good a finish it was from Pulisic.
Off.
You know, under massive pressure, yeah, he's 1-1, but he's 1-1 with Thibaut Courtois. He's a big old lump of a goalkeeper, and he's basically had to dummy him, and he has not panicked. And I mean, that's the one thing that we need to add to what we are developing at the moment. People who are calm in front of goal. And in that moment, he was wonderfully calm in front of goal. And he has begun to score a few more goals for us just now. Obviously, the Palace game was one that jumps into me. And we are beginning to see a little bit more of that now. So don't underestimate that. That was a really special finish under a lot of pressure, and he took it brilliantly.
Well, he had the one disallowed against Man City as well, didn't he? Which was another superb goal. So he's definitely finding that form that we know that he's very much capable of. Pat, but ahead of the second leg, I think we all kind of are. I think we all internally might know the answer, unfortunately. But can you see Real Madrid matching us up again? Because it clearly put them in quite a bit of hot bother when they did try and match us up. Just couldn't get near us, could they?
I think they've got a lot of questions to answer. I really do. They did not want to play 4-3-3 against us because that is their game. That is how they play. But they've decided they can't play that because they've got dominated in midfield, so they don't go for it. Now, everything they do to change that will make them different. They will have to work on it. Now, they're all intelligent and top players, and they'll be able to do that. But they have to do that, and on top of that, they have to come and score. I mean, they have to come and score. And they don't have to go gangbusters for the first 15, 20, 25 minutes. But they've got to score, and they've got to put us under pressure. And they've got to get the best players up to the level. And I mentioned that a few times in commentary, but I adore Luka Modric. He's a fabulous, fabulous player. But he'll wake up in the morning and he'll think that Mason Mount's followed him into bed last night, because Mason Mount just ran away from him all night long and closed them down. And it was what I said to you before the game. You look at players and sometimes you look at them in the eye and you go, got you. I've got you. And Mason had him. He absolutely had him. There's a couple other ones through the game as well. I think Aspe definitely had Marcelo as well. He just looked at him and went, nah, you're not getting by me and you can't stay with me either. And I think that's a bit of a worry if you're Zidane going away from home to Chelsea thinking, I'm playing against a team away from home and they've got more energy than us. That's a worry. And they've got an advantage because they've got a away goal.
Completely. And Zach, I suppose the only thing that we'll be keeping an eye on, I'm sure every Chelsea fan will be doing that and just refreshing Real Madrid feeds to see what happens. But if they do have Ferland Mendy back as a left back option, if they do have Sergio Ramos back in the heart of defence, if Eden Hazard gets more minutes this weekend in their La Liga game, if they have got Lucas Vazquez who can play wide right if they do have sort of more options in the second leg, then maybe that works in our favour a little bit, because maybe they do open up and go, okay, we can affect the game a little bit more, and that might play into Chelsea's hands.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Pat's point here that they have to come and score minimum. They can't let it be 0-0. So normally, when you are trying to score, you do leave more gaps to be open at the back, and that's where our players like Pulisic, like Werner, like Mason love to run up defences. They've done it today in that first half. Those first 20 minutes, we realistically should have been 2 or 3 up. And they'll have it again. And even if that is Sergio Ramos, I mean, we know he also likes to bomb forward as well. Even if that's Varane, it doesn't really matter too much, because we have the advantage of we can defend a 0-0 lead and go through to the next round, whereas they need to push on forward and leave gaps in behind. And we know how much Thomas Tuchel loves those half spaces, and that's hopefully what will be available.
They've had plenty of 0-0s recently in La Liga as well. I think the 3 of the last 4 league games have finished 0-0. So they have struggled for that. Other than Karim Benzema, they've struggled to find the back of the net. But Pat, obviously we have got an important game at the weekend. We've got Fulham in the Premier League, and top 4 race is still very wide open. I suppose that the difficulty now is finding that correct balance, because you don't want to undo all the good work we did at the weekend against West Ham by underestimating Fulham and maybe taking too many of the players out. But I suppose, like you just said, you do really want to wrap some players up in cotton wool to not sort of risk injury or exhaustion ahead of an important game next week. How would you approach this weekend?
I think you do need to make changes at the weekend. I don't think you can go to the fountain again and expect them to be just as high as that. Fortunately, we've got the players to adapt it and change it. You may have to start with Havertz, maybe even, you have got two other centre forwards who are quite good as well. So, I think Giroud might be a shout for that one as well. But, Tammy came on the other day. So we've got options there. Those players up front, it's one of those ones when you watch it on TV and things, you think, you ran out of gas there after 60 minutes. Yeah, did you see the running they did? It's absolutely incredible. So we've also got another kind of problem, which is kind of looming. And it's not just this month coming. We've got 8/9 games between now and the end of the month, and next month. Everybody around us, and I mean everybody around us, West Ham, 5 games. You look at Leicester, 5 games. Liverpool, 5 games. Now, we have got to be really, really clever about this. It's not going to be easy. And we're fighting in 3 fronts at the moment. It's going to be a tough one. You asked me what I would do. I'll be honest with you, sometimes you should say it. I don't know. Because you'd need to know what they're doing in training, who looks right, who's carrying a little bit of an injury. Thank goodness. And I think the reason why we are here is because we've got this squad. That's the reason why we're here. But we're going to use them now. In this next 4 weeks, we are going to use those players.
I suppose it sounds very disrespectful, and I don't mean it in that way, but obviously you are comparing them to Manchester City. I suppose that is a slight blessing, Zach, that we're playing Fulham, not Man City this coming weekend, because obviously Man City are the other end of the Real Madrid game when you know what you've got to contend with them. But if you've got a big game like Man City and it sandwiched between the two, then all of a sudden you're perhaps looking at players that are running at maybe 90% and thinking you might get another 10% out of them. Whereas Fulham, although they've been brilliant and recently have been very, very good since the turn of the year, they are in the relegation zone. They've got a different problem themselves in terms of the battle they've got up against, and maybe it's an opportunity, like Pat said, for some players to come in, maybe stake a claim for some big games coming up.
Well, the benefit for our squad is that no matter who's coming in, whether it's Kovacic, whether it's Havertz, Tammy, they're all good enough to be starting anyway. They're all good enough to be in that squad, in a top 4 Champions League battling, Premier League battling squad. So hopefully the quality, no matter whether it's Kante, Jorginho, whoever drops, isn't missing that much. But we do have to also make sure we don't underestimate Fulham. I mean, a side that is battling for relegation and trying to stay in the Premier League, maybe even as tough as playing a team like Manchester City. Obviously not player for player, but they have something to fight for. And when we played them under Frank Lampard, I think we won just about, but that was a tough game. And to be fair, they've proven most of the time that a lot of their games are tough fixtures, and you have to earn a result against them. If you go there just thinking that we're going to roll them over, it normally doesn't happen. And if anything, with Tuchel, it seems that we seem to do really well in the tougher oppositions, and then maybe not so well against the weaker ones.
Pat, so learning what we have tonight, how do you see the second leg going?
We'll need to know who's fit and who's right. Aspi might be struggling a wee bit. I could see he'd pulled something up a little bit, maybe just a bit of cramp, who knows. I was saying beforehand that you lot all seemed a wee bit more confident in me as this competition started. I've actually really flipped it. I'm really comfortable and I'm really confident that we are capable of doing this. We're in the box seat now. And if you are Real Madrid, you're looking at it, you're thinking, who is the last team in the world we want to play against that can actually stop us scoring goals or stop anyone scoring goals? It's Chelsea Football Club at the moment. So they have got a lot of problems they have to overcome. It's going to be tight again. You'll wait for my prediction, seeing as I got this one right. But I'm excited about it, and I'll continue to be excited about it. And I think the players that need to be rested will be rested. I think Zuma will come in at the weekend. I think Thiago Silva will get a rest. I think you bring Reece James in the weekend. You give Aspi a rest. And then maybe Alonso comes in. You're giving rests all the way through to players that have put serious shifts in. You have Pulisic a rest. Definitely give him a rest. Maybe Timo Werner as well. Give him a bit of a rest. We have got players to bring in there. And then by the time that Real Madrid come behind me here in a week's time, they'll all be flying again. And our lads flying with all the energy. I still think we're good enough.
Zach, one word, final question mark.
2, book your tickets.
Good boy. Good boy. Yes, love that, mate. Love that. Pat, you're absolutely spot on. From right at the start of the season, we've all been confident. Like we said in the pre-match show, you do have that as a football fan. You have that little bit where you've got a glint in your eye and you see things that perhaps aren't quite realistic. And the closer you get to it, the more nervous you get. But that nervous energy is because you have so much belief and confidence in your team. I completely agree. Everything we've seen tonight, we're in the box seat. We're in a great position, and 45 minutes in the tie as it is. But yeah, I'm so confident. We've got obviously plenty coming up on the fifth stand before we get to that second leg of the UEFA Champions League semi-final. Development side are back in action on Friday evening for our final home PL2 game of the season. We're against Blackburn Rovers. Coverage from that from 6:55. Then Premier League action, as we've already alluded to on Saturday. It's a West London derby against Fulham. Matchday Live will be on air at 4:20. Emma Hayes' side, they've got some work to do, but we have absolute belief in them as well, looking to overturn a 2-1 first leg deficit. Back at Kings Meadow for the second leg of our semi-final against Bayern Munich. That is Sunday from 12:25. Deep breath. We are 45 minutes into this Champions League semi-final. Two-legged affair. Over 16,000 miles travelled for our Champions League adventure so far this season. Maybe one more away trip still to come. The next stop, home, of course. Back at the Bridge for the second part of our semi-final. An away goal secured tonight in the pouring rain in Madrid. It's in the balance. 90 minutes away from an Istanbul Champions League final. Come on, you Blues. Thank you for watching.